You are standing outside during a storm. Rain is falling. The sky flickers. You feel your hair rise on your arms, just slightly, and you tell yourself it's nothing. It probably is nothing. For one man, it was never nothing. Lightning found him 7 times in 35 years, and he survived every single one. His name was Roy Sullivan. He worked as a park ranger in Shenandoah National Park, Virginia, patrolling the same ridgelines and fire towers for decades. To understand what happened to him, you first need to understand a number. The odds of a person being struck by lightning once in an 80-year lifetime are roughly 1 in 15,000. Being struck 7 times pushes that number into territory so small it barely means anything to the human brain. Some statisticians have placed the odds at somewhere near 1 in 10 octillion. That is a 1 followed by 28 zeros. You are more likely to guess the exact outcome of a shuffled deck of cards, twice in a row, than to live what Roy Sullivan lived. The first strike came in April 1942. Sullivan was in a fire lookout tower, hiding from a storm. The tower was brand new. It had no lightning rod. Lightning hit it 7 or 8 times in a row, and the tower caught fire. Sullivan ran. A few feet from the door, lightning found him directly. It burned a strip down his right leg. It destroyed the nail on his big toe. It left a hole clean through his shoe. He survived. He went back to work. Here is where your brain wants to intervene. Surely that was enough. Surely nature makes its point once and moves on. But lightning does not think in terms of fairness, and neither does probability. 17 years passed with no further incident. Then, in 1969, Sullivan was driving a truck through the park when lightning deflected off nearby trees and through his open window. It knocked him unconscious. Some accounts say the truck rolled toward a cliff edge before stopping. He survived that too. A year later, in his own front yard, lightning struck a power transformer near his house. The charge jumped from the transformer to his shoulder. It seared the skin like a burn from a hot pan. 3 strikes now. A pattern was forming, and Sullivan noticed it before anyone else did. The lightning seemed to be following him home. In the spring of 1972, he was inside a ranger station when a 4th strike hit him directly, setting his hair on fire. He ran for a bathroom sink, but his head wouldn't fit under the tap, so he smothered the flames with a wet towel instead. This is the moment, according to those who knew him, when something in Sullivan changed. He had never been a fearful man. Now he began to believe that some force was actively working against him. During storms, if he was driving, he would pull over and lie flat across the front seat until it passed. He started carrying a can of water with him, in case his hair caught fire again. Ask yourself what this does to a person. Not the burns. The waiting. Sullivan began to dread clear summer afternoons the way other people dread illness. The 5th strike came in August 1973. He saw a storm cloud forming while on patrol and drove away from it as fast as he could. Satisfied he'd outrun it, he stepped out of his truck to check the sky. Lightning struck him again, traveling down one arm and one leg, knocking his shoe clean off. The storm had not been outrun. It had simply waited for him to stop moving. By now, word had spread. Newspapers picked up his story. He appeared on the television program to tell the truth, sharing his account of the first 5 strikes to a studio audience that likely assumed at least part of it was fabricated. It was not. A 6th strike hit him in 1976 while walking a park trail, burning his ankle. And here is something researchers who study lightning statistics, including meteorologist Ronald Holley, have long pointed out. The majority of lightning victims are men, roughly 4 times more often than women, largely because men are statistically more likely to be outdoors during storms for work or recreation. Sullivan's job placed him outside, on exposed ridgelines, during exactly the conditions lightning prefers. His danger wasn't only bad luck. It was arithmetic, repeated over and over across a very long career. The 7th strike, in June 1977, might be the strangest of all. Sullivan was fishing alone in a freshwater pool when lightning struck the top of his head, burning down through his chest and stomach. While he was still recovering from the shock of it, a black bear approached the pond, drawn by the fish on his line. Sullivan, hair still smoldering, grabbed a branch and drove the bear off. He later claimed it was the 22nd time in his life he'd had to fend off a bear with a stick. Whether or not you believe that exact number, the image is hard to shake. A man on fire from the sky, fighting off a bear, and walking away from both. Guinness World Records eventually recognized him as the person struck by lightning more times than any other documented human being. It is a record nobody has broken since, and one nobody is racing to break. But here is the part of the story that rarely makes it into the headlines. Surviving something extraordinary does not always feel extraordinary from the inside. As Sullivan's reputation grew, people began to avoid him. He once recalled walking with a fellow ranger when lightning struck in the distance. Far off, no danger to anyone. The other man said, "I'll see you later, Roy," and walked away. A restaurant near the park reportedly wouldn't let him inside if the sky was even overcast. Sullivan understood why. He said so himself. But understanding a fear doesn't make it easier to live inside of. His own family adjusted around him in quiet, permanent ways. During storms, he would send his wife and 3 children into the living room and go sit alone in the kitchen, away from them, in case the house itself became a target. Notably, his wife was struck by lightning once too, while hanging laundry in their backyard. Sullivan was standing right beside her at the time. He wasn't touched. Roy Sullivan died in 1983 at the age of 71 by suicide, unrelated to any lightning strike. It is a detail that sits uneasily next to the rest of his story, and it should. Survival and suffering are not opposites. A man can walk through 7 bolts of lightning and still be worn down by something quieter and harder to see. If his story does anything beyond amazement, it's this. It's a reminder that resilience has a cost, even when the danger looks, from the outside, like something to marvel at. So think again about that moment outside in the rain, hair rising slightly on your arms. For most people, that feeling passes and nothing happens. For one man, it happened 7 times, across 35 years, and he kept going back outside anyway, because it was his job, because the mountain was his to watch over regardless of what the sky decided to do to him that day. You will likely never be struck by lightning even once. Roy Sullivan was struck by it 7 times, and somehow, that was never the hardest part of his life at all.